Welcome to Big Mike's Real Reviews. I am Big Mike and happy birthday to me. And what a birthday this is going to be. I'm going to go over my episode 2 review of Loki entitled The Variant, and what a great episode it was. We got a lot to unpack in this episode, so I'm going to get my review out of the way first. I really enjoyed this episode as well. I'm usually like more action. I've mentioned this before in some of my reviews. I usually like more action. You know, I really enjoyed WandaVision and I really enjoyed The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I enjoyed The Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little more than I enjoyed WandaVision, and it was more so, you know, based off of the action parts. Now, that being said, I'm really enjoying Loki, even though there's not a lot of action in it. I really like the sci-fi aspect and the world building and the story building. So I don't want to say I'm enjoying this more than I did The Falcon and the Winter Soldier at this point. It might be on par, but it's going over to that point to where it might be a little more. Like, I'm starting to really enjoy Loki. I think because I'm a real sci-fi nerd as well as comic book nerd. So you know, when I get the sci-fi elements and actually some good world building, something a little different as well. Like WandaVision was different too, but I'm enjoying the sci-fi like world building of this aspect a little better, especially like the cosmic side of Marvel. I've always really enjoyed like the cosmic side of Marvel, and we're kind of getting that now. We're starting to build up a little bit to it, so I'm really enjoying it. That being said, I'm going to give this episode a 9 as well. I think I gave the last episode a 9. I really like how this is going. If this continues on this path and even gets better, I'm just super excited for what's to come. So now I'm going to drop my spoiler warning because I'm going to get into spoilers for this episode. We're going to break this down, and I had a theory. I didn't mention it in my last video. I'm a little mad at myself that I didn't mention it in my last video. But those of you who watch my channel and who actually know me, and we've spoken away from the comment section of YouTube, you'll know when I say it. So here's your spoiler warning. I'm going to get into the spoilers of this episode, and here we go. So when this episode opens up, we get Loki now integrated into TVA. You know, he's got his uniform on, well, you know, his shirt and tie. And, you know, Miss Minutes is kind of quizzing him on some things he should know. He had videos he's supposed to be watching because at this point he's working with the TVA. Not for, I guess, exactly, but kind of like a consultant. Because we know Mobius wants to get kind of inside his head so he can see what's going on in the head of the other variant Loki, who is causing all of this mischief. So we get into that, and Loki has this bright idea because what happens is he's exploring different files. He's trying to. So the only files he was able to get his hands on that weren't classified to him was his own file. So when he ran across Ragnarok and the destruction of Asgard, he kind of got this bright idea. So he goes to Mobius with it. And he goes to Mobius saying, hey, look, if this were me, and it is me, like what I would do is hide out in these world-ending events, or events where, you know, everyone perishes and, you know, the timeline isn't disrupted because you can keep just going back to that point. Whatever you do at that point is not going to matter because everyone is going to die anyway. So there's going to be no time disruption. And so in the trailer, we got the Pompeii scene. Okay. So that's what we get here. And what we find out now was that was kind of like Loki's test to Mobius to say, hey, look, this will work and let me test it. So they go to Pompeii, and Mobius is like, hey, let's try and do something small like bird calls. And Loki's like, bird calls? No. And Loki being Loki, he runs out, he lets out some goats. He's telling everybody they're going to die. Nothing matters, blah, blah, blah. And Mobius looks at, you know, his little device, and there's no time variation. The volcano erupts and nothing happens. So they go back to the TV and they're like, yes, now we got it. So now they're scouring the timeline, basically, all the files just to see, okay, what event would this variation of Loki hide out in from the TVA? So Loki says, hey, I think I got it. And it's some point in 2050 in Alabama, of all places. And so the TVA ends up going there on a mission. And we see, of course, the variant of Loki is there. And that's where that variant of Loki is hiding out, because the Loki from the main character Loki in this show, that variant, you know, he did figure it out. So they actually get to talk through the enchantment of different individuals. So this Loki enchants people, which basically takes over their mind and controls their bodies and doesn't need to be in that particular location. So we find out in talking to them that this person, this other variant of Loki, we don't know the plan as of yet. Now this Loki is setting up a lot of these bombs that the TVA have to destroy the timelines. So he's stalling or this person is stalling for time, and they finally release all these bombs into different parts of the timeline. So at the end of the episode, like, the timeline is just being completely disrupted. Okay, because we don't know when and where they're sending these bombs, but they're completely destroying the sacred timeline. And we do find out in this episode that the variant that they are hunting is Lady Loki. And again, this is where I'm going back to what I said earlier about, even though I didn't say this on my channel, on the last episode, I have been saying that I thought that the variant that they are chasing is Lady Loki. So those of you who know me and those of you who have had chats with me, you know that I'm not just making this up, and I'm pretty excited that I called it. There's Lady Loki, and that's the pretty much main antagonist of this series that we know of so far, because we could even get that the timekeepers are the main antagonists of this series, because that's very plausible, because at this point, like, the TVA kind of just blindly follows whatever they're saying. No one has ever, well, not saying no one, but I don't think anyone has seen the timekeepers that work at the TVA at this point. We don't know if anything that the TVA is saying is a ruse. Maybe they believe it and that's what they've been told. Maybe they've been brainwashed, whatever. But at this point, all is up in the air, and the timekeepers could be the main antagonist. But as we know it right now, the main variant antagonist that they are hunting and chasing throughout this series so far is Lady Loki, and I'm pretty stoked that I called it. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you saw this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications so you will be notified of all my latest content. And once again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.